What if I told you you didn't have to send the same templated message to every single inbound lead that you receive? What if you could actually personalize that email to each lead and even provide free value right off the bat? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to show you. In this video, we'll build a system that looks through your resource database and finds the exact resource that a specific lead would be looking for given a specific need that that lead has. This is an extremely useful way of taking an existing resource and turning it into immediate value for your customers that are coming into your business. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Matt Paiva. I build AI solutions for businesses, especially on the sales and marketing side of things. And I actually had this idea while browsing through HubSpot's website. I saw that HubSpot has this resources portion with over 600 guides. And I thought to myself, what if we took those guides and actually took advantage of them through email? So that's exactly what I built. And the way it works is like this. When a new lead comes into HubSpot's website and tries to book a demo with the HubSpot team, they need to fill out this form that has information about the first name, the last name, email, phone number, website URL, company name, and how many employees work there. Which, by the way, in my opinion, is a really long form, and you could ask for half of this information and still get a lot of good intel in the back end by including an AI agent. And I actually made a video about this. If you're curious, you can go watch it over here. But I looked at this form and I thought to myself, you could ask for a lot less information, and in the meantime, you could include a form that would actually ask you what are specific challenges that you're looking to tackle. And then based on the information that we're getting on this portion over here of what kind of challenges you're trying to tackle, we can perform a research in the background and provide free resources. And the way that happens in the background is that we receive the information coming in from a Google form and we message an assistant in OpenAI. This assistant will then perform some research in the background, and it will look at this specific document, which includes the resource name, the link to that resource, and the description of that resource. And based on what the person is looking for, it will recommend up to 3 different types of resources for that person. And once it finds the relevant resources for that specific lead, it crafts a very simple email that looks like this with up to 3 guides that people can just click and download. And this is a system that provides free value and creates the reciprocity with those inbound leads by taking advantage of a database of resources that they already have. So why don't we jump into the computer and start going over the process of building this for ourselves. And if you want to start with AI, but you're not sure if this is the use case for your business, I'm actually running 3 free audits every single month that help businesses start using AI effectively. And in these audits, you can expect 3 different things: an AI use case portfolio, personalize and prioritize for your business, a 6-month implementation roadmap with the actions that you need to take to implement all of those AI systems, and a starter version of an automation that will start saving your team time right now. So if you want to learn what the best AI use cases for your business are right now, you can go and book a call with me down below and write audit in the description of the call. So why don't we jump into the computer to build this entire system, and we're actually going to start by building the vector database. So to start off this build, we're going to go to platform.openai.com, and once you are here, just click over in dashboards and go down to storage, because we're going to start this build by going over to the vector store. Once you are here, just click on create a new vector store, and here you will be able to title it whatever you want. I'm going to title it HubSpot Resources, and here I'm going to click save to save the name. And here we're going to add files, and this file that I'm going to be adding is a file that I created by going over to this HubSpot page over here, hubspot.com/resources-content creation, and then running a little bit of a small automation just to grab the HTML to text, just to grab like the code of the website in text format, and then running a ChatGPT prompt to generate the actual document that I wanted. So I just pasted this quick prompt over here that says, can you look at this HTML transformed into text and list all the resources that they have available? I need you to use Canvas to create a file with the name of the resource, link to the resource, and a brief description of the resource. So then I just pasted the information that came as the output of that thing, and I downloaded this file over here by clicking on this button. Now here is the document that I'm uploading over here. We'll see if the table format is working properly. Otherwise, I'm just going to prompt ChatGPT to give me like a heading, the link underneath it, and then the description underneath it. I think the table should work fine. I just know that in the past, I've tried to connect Excel files to the vector database straight into ChatGPT or straight into the OpenAI platform, and it didn't work. So we'll see if this approach works. Here you have some options on chunk size and chunk overlap. I'm not going to change any of this as of right now because this will make this build a little bit more complex, and I want this to be extremely simple. And here I'm just going to click on attach. Now we have a vector database created with the resources that we might need. I decided to create it like this because if we want to add resources later down the line, you can just go over here and add more files. If you are just going to use one document like I'm doing it right now, you can just attach that document straight into the assistant. So here we're going to click on create the assistant because I don't have an assistant created yet. Now we're going to go over to the assistant, and we go over by clicking on this ID over here. And as we can see, this is the assistant that we're working with, since it has the HubSpot resources connected in the tools portion over here. So I'm just going to start by naming this HubSpot. And now we're going to add some system instructions over here. Okay, so for our system prompts, we have the usual suspects, our role, our task, and our output format. And here in the role, I said, you are a sales copilot built to help HubSpot's team automatically provide free value to inbound leads and draft personalized follow-up emails using their existing resources. Under the task, we're just describing a step-by-step process in which this assistant will need to follow by just first ingesting the lead's name, company, and their needs, run the file search tool that we are going to enable, and it's in fact already enabled for us, to look over the document that we attached and find up to 3 relevant resources to write an email about. Well, actually in this scenario, we're going to be writing an email with the resources instead of about the resources, but you get what I was trying to say. And then an additional step-by-step just to make sure that things are working, and the output format. The output format is just kind of like the style of email that we want. And here I want it to be deterministic for this small little portion, and keep the variables over here for whatever we might need later down the line. So the output format will just say, hi name, I saw you were looking for summary of the request in the form you filled out. Here are some free resources that should help you before the call with our team. And then you link the 3 resources, and then let me know if you need any more details or examples. This could be any other messaging, just like a quick template of a message that the HubSpot team could send using this automation. Here I'm going to save. And in this scenario, I'm just going to test this tool before we start building everything else. So here, just to test out if our tool is working how it's supposed to, I'm going to input a small example over here with the name, company, and needs. And this is just my name, the name of my company, and the needs will just be, I want help with my short form strategy. Because from experience, I know that these lead forms don't get a lot of detail when we're using them. So that's kind of like something that I imagine would be in a lead form. Okay, so based on this response, I can see that it's okay, but there is a formatting issue with the list especially. And I know that when we connect this to the automation, we will want this to be in an HTML format, because in Make.com, if you write things with some HTML tags, like a paragraph tag, like a list tag, or a hyperlink tag, it will actually write it as it's supposed to be and format it as it's supposed to be in the email. So that's what I'm going to change real quick before we move on. Okay, so I changed the output format to have the output like this, and it will look weird for now, but in the email, it will make total sense. So now I just need to paste the same text that we had from before, and we'll see what it comes up with. Okay, so the text did come like this, and it should be how it's supposed to come back to us. I'm gonna test it in Make.com before we select this for real. And in order to test it in Make.com, I'm just gonna go over here and write Gmail, and I'm gonna say send an email. Here we paste the content that we received from before, save, and I'm gonna run once to see what type of results we're gonna get. Okay, cool, so it does work. After the test, this is what it looks like in our email with the bolded part over here. This might be a little bit too much. I would like it to be a little bit more conversational, but this could be like improvements for another time. It's nice that it's including the name of the links over here, and let's see if the links are working. Okay, cool. So this portion is done. We're going to go over to set up our Google form. In this scenario, we're just going to go over to Google form and create a very simple one. I'm just going to call it HubSpot lead form. Obviously, like HubSpot has a proper lead form and doesn't have this. Cool. So we're going to publish this form, and we have our mini setup over here. We're going to go over to Google Sheets, and here is going to create the untitled form responses. I'm going to call this, change the name of the Google Sheet to HubSpot lead form. And here we're going to create. So here's the database, and now we're going to go over to Make.com and create this automation. Now for this automation, we can create it in one of 2 ways. We can either connect the actual Google form, get a form, search forms, create a form. And here is asking to search for a form ID, document title. What's the document title? Let me just pull that over here. HubSpot lead form. So here I'm going to copy this, paste it over there. Cool, so it connected to the form that we're looking for, and here we're going to receive one at a time from now on. So now that we have the Google Form Watch responses in place, we're going to go over and click on Message an Assistant with OpenAI. And this requires that you have the API connected, but that I feel like you already know that because you are using an assistant to build this. Now the assistant that we're going to be messaging is going to be the HubSpot assistant. That's the name of the assistant that we selected. One of the key differences between creating a chat completion and using an assistant is that here you don't have the system prompt because it's already embedded in your assistant over here, right, under the system instructions. And that means that now we only need to input the user information. And here I'm going to include the name, the company name, and then the needs of that specific lead. And if you are using the watch responses one, it's a little bit annoying to get these things because you need to keep clicking until you find the value portion over here. But if you are using a watch responses or a watch rows trigger in Google Sheets instead of a watch responses in Google Forms, it could work a little bit better. I think both of them actually work with are an ACID module, meaning that they're not instant. I don't think this will be triggered as soon as you get a response, unless there isn't another type of module that I'm not aware of. So it shouldn't change much of when these things are going to be processed when it comes to triggers. Same thing goes for company over here, and same thing goes for needs. What are the specific challenges you are looking for? We're going to click on text answers, value, and I'm just going to paste it over here. All right, cool. So after that, we are going to connect our Gmail. Then once you connect your Gmail account, we are going to select the to portion, which is going to come from the email response over here. We're going to include the email address like this, a subject line saying, we could have also written a subject line, I just realized, from the assistant as well. But in this scenario, let's just use a generic one. Hi name, and then here on the name, we know how to pull that information. Hi name, here are some freebies. That could be a good name. Okay, cool. So our subject will be hi name, here are some freebies. Yeah, and then here under content, we're going to select the value portion under text, which will be the text that we'll receive back from our agent or from our assistant in this scenario. So then this is the setup that we need, and we can actually run an example. We can choose where to start. There's only one response that I just sent in the form over there, which will be this response over here. And we will run this and open up my email to see what I'm going to receive in the background. Okay, cool. So this is the email that our assistant wrote for us, and it says, well, the subject line that we selected. Hi, Matt, here are some freebies. Hi, Matt, I saw you were looking for short form content in the form you filled out. Here are some free resources that should help you before the call with our team. And then the link to the 3 resources that we can click. Now, what's interesting about this approach is that this list of resources is actually a list with one different resource from the one that we had before. Like if I go back to the other email that I was showing you guys, this has an AI plus video guide, an AI content creation checklist, and a short form video guide. While the new email has the short form video guide, the AI content creation checklist, and this 20 ways to craft irresistible content. So as you guys can see, because of the difference in this one, it's not incredibly deterministic in the sense of like, if we have an input that says short form content, it will always output this thing. Here you can have a couple different types of responses coming in from your assistant. And also this kind of difference comes from the fact that all of the resources that we have in the document are related to content in some way, shape, or form. So here what's happening in the background is just the assistant using that vector database to determine which one of the resources it fits best to send to this specific prospect. And one of the ways that you could enhance this assistant is by connecting it to an AI agent that does research on your inbound leads. And actually I've done this before, and I created an agent that does these types of research, and you can go and check out that video right over there. And that agent does research on our leads in LinkedIn, so it pretty much looks through the LinkedIn profile of that specific person and the company that they work for to find information to tailor our responses accordingly. So we could get the output of that agent and use it as a secondary input for this assistant to help it better determine what resources would be best for this type of prospect. And at the end of the day, you're leading with value and getting a much more personalized approach to interact with your inbound leads, all without having to lift a finger and having AI do it for you in the background. So now that you've learned how to personalize your messages for your inbound leads, maybe you're looking for another way of engaging these leads before they buy from you. And one of these ways could be building a newsletter. I've actually tackled this problem of AI generated newsletter in the channel twice, and this is one of the videos that I'm talking about. And you can go watch that right now if you want to engage with your leads a little bit more often via email through a newsletter. So that's all that I had for you today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.